Welcome to the complete animation of Sawyer from Warner Brothers animated feature film Cats Don't Dance. So, I have an interesting history with this movie. I remember, I think my older siblings rented this from a video rental place. It wasn't Blockbuster. We never went to Blockbuster. I don't know why. But it's like I vaguely remember little bits and pieces of it from back then, especially like Max, Darla's giant butler guy. But it wasn't until like last year that I finally went and really watched it. And holy cow, this movie is just delightful. Absolutely delightful. The story that it tells is charming, and it's like, it's hard often to make a story where the main character's dream gets smashed and then you actually feel something. And this movie does it. Like, Danny is just the most tragic guy when things go south for him. And I think one of the biggest things that just struck me, just absolutely surprised me about this movie. Well, I guess there are two big things, but the first one is just how incredibly it nails the vibe of the setting. Because it's like the entire thing of this movie is that it is harkening back to the golden age of Hollywood. The era that brought like The Wizard of Oz and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, you know, that era where it's just big sound stages and big musical numbers, things like Singing in the Rain, where this was early cinema. They didn't know exactly how cinema was going, and in this early bit, it was basically a stage play with a little bit of a introductions here and there because of the new format. Like, and this whole like thing where they're filming a Noah's Ark picture, that really is nailed in the whole era. And so like this 1940s, 1950s sort of time, they really nail the fashion, they nail all of the architecture and all the cars. It's like whoever made this basically wanted to write a love letter to this era. Like, they were able to romanticize the time period, but at the same time show that it wasn't all, you know, glitz and glam for people who had real talent but couldn't get in, all of these animals. So let's talk about these animals, specifically Sawyer. I mean, she is the subject of this video. I am so conflicted by her character design. It's like there are some times at some angles where it's like, yeah, that works. But then there are other times where it's like, ugh, the way that her face is like, I'm not sure I could really put a handle on it, but like, I don't think, yeah, it's like, it's her face. Her face comes and goes for me. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's a good design. And sometimes it's like, oh, that design is weird. But I will say one thing. The design is always well animated. The animators stay on model, and they make it move so well. And this movie has some really good dancing. I won't be able to include it in my quadruped dancing because these are all anthropomorphic animals. And, you know, they stand on two legs. But I think that that's one of the things that helps the dancing in here to look so good. I'm sure that they used live action references. And when people hear, like, oh, classic Disney films, they used references, it's not like they were tracing over frames of film to get stuff done. What they do is they film actors doing what they want, and then they just study that over and over again to just inspire what they're doing. Because when people are twisting around a ton and they're changing their orientation to the viewer and their limbs are going in all sorts of directions, you need a reference in order to keep it all straight. Like, you have to be the best of the best in animator to be able to just from your own mind with no external inspiration, I guess, be able to make a character dance and make it look good. And I'm not sure why this movie's called Cats Don't Dance, because they dance a lot and they do it really well. Let's see. So, one of the things I really like about musicals is that when the musical starts, like when the musical numbers inside the movie start, they're able to so often go into a realm of fantasy. It's like this movie, when it's just normal dialogue and the story is playing out, is very grounded in reality. It's like nobody's jumping 50 feet high, nobody's like, I guess the craziest things are like when the large characters like the hippo or the elephant throw their weight around and they're able to do some weird stuff. But like, this movie's really grounded, but it's able to really go into like a figurative fantasy visual style during the musical numbers. And that's one of the things that I like about musicals. It's like, yeah, sure, it's good when the music is good. I'll talk about the music later. But the music gives the show an excuse to really show what it can do visually. But yeah, let's talk about the music. When I sat down, it's like, you know what, time to watch Cats Don't Dance, that movie that I saw so long ago but never actually sat down and really understood. When I finally did, the music was really impressive. Like, from the very first number all the way to the very last one. I'm not saying every single song is a straight banger, but I am surprised at just how much I enjoyed the music in this show. Like, even the cutesy wootsy song that they have for the Noah's Ark picture, it's like, it was so perfect because it was supposed to be a cutesy wootsy kind of a song. It wasn't supposed to be a straight banger. It was supposed to be in universe. They're singing a song that's going to go into a 1940s era musical motion picture. And they nailed it. Like, the tone was perfect, but it was a completely original composition. And it's kind of appealing in its own, so cute it's almost gross kind of a way. But I will say one thing. The voice actress for Sawyer when she talks is incredible. She has this raspy kind of a voice, like it in an appealing way. Like, raspy isn't necessarily a bad thing. I like the raspy in her voice. Like, really good. But then she has like a completely separate voice actress when it's time for her to sing, and they sound nothing alike, like, at all. And it's so jarring, and I don't think that the singing voice is really even that appealing. No offense to the voice actress, but I really enjoy Sawyer as a character because, again, people are always talking about, oh, Hollywood needs strong female characters. And everybody's always like, okay, Hollywood, that's what we want. But we don't want it how you're doing it. Where it's like, apparently the memo that Hollywood gets is, we want strong female characters that exemplify, like all of the stereotypes of toxic masculinity. Where it's like, you want a strong female character? Fine, we'll give you a female character, but basically she's a man. And it's like, come on, that's not what we want. What we want are characters like Sawyer. She is a female through and through. Like, never once does she try to, like, do anything that is quote-unquote masculine. But she is being a self-sustaining, self-made female in the 1940s. And it's like, that was hard back then. It's not exactly a walk in the park nowadays, but it certainly wasn't easy then, and they show that. It's like, she couldn't swing it as an actress, and so what does she do? She uses her hard work ethic, and she is a successful secretary. It's like, not supposed to be like demeaning or degrading or anything, but yeah, like I don't think that anybody would say that Sawyer is a bad role model in terms of being able to make it. So this final musical number is really good. Like, the whole thing where Darla's trying to sabotage everything but ends up making the show even more spectacular than ever is really good. But again, I'm not the biggest fan of Sawyer's singing voice. Like, I wonder, what would her voice sound like if she did all the singing in her actual, like, talking, if the voice actress for her for talking actually did the singing. I wonder what it would sound like. Because I said it before, but it's kind of weird. I really like her raspy talking voice. I should look up who her voice actress is and see if she did anything else. Yeah. And again, Danny is just like the most optimistic guy that you'll ever see. And he steals the show. He is such a good main character. You really feel empathy for his dream, and then when he doesn't get it, you feel sad, and then when he actually does, it's so happy. And yeah, the writing in this movie is so good. There's so many good lines. Yeah. So, thanks for watching.